Hello and welcome to Focus on Fantasy Romance, episode number 13. We're a podcast where we discuss book genres, industry, and our geeky lives. I'm your host, Elle, and I'm joined today by A.R. DeClerc.
Hi, everybody.
And Paulina Woods. And she's waving. So today we're talking a little bit about industry. And my children are going to walk behind me just a moment. And we're going to discuss a trend that we're seeing lately about writing very fast, skipping content edits, going straight to line edits and publishing. And this is a trend that I've seen lately. Some people have, I've listened to some podcasts where the author has been discussing such a project, and he's doing very successful, I will say that. But I also, there's a lot of people trying to emulate that process, and they're not seeing the same type of success. And so we're going to talk about that and probably a lot about how the editorial process worked for ourselves. And I'm going to start with my process. My first book was published through a small press, and I think they were my sixth publisher that I had submitted my book to. And I had self-edited, and I had beta readers read it, and they were like, "Oh, this is awesome! You should publish it." You know, because you could publish with a click on KDP, Kindle Direct Press, and I'm like, "Well, I want that proof or that verification that I don't suck as a writer, so I want to go through a publisher." And so the process with my publisher was a round of content edits, and that's where they fix all the big story problems, and then a round of, they call it line edits, where you fix it line by line. So if I've got passive voice or double negatives or sentence structure problems, they fix that, and then they did a round of proofing. I actually got 2 rounds of proofing because they determined that my book needed it, and then we published. So that was my journey. But stepping back, if I had listened to the beta readers that were like, "This is awesome, you should publish it," I learned so much through the editorial process with our publisher that if I had done that, I would have seriously regretted not making the book the best that it could have been. And even now, and the book has been out for over a year, I go back and I try to read it, or I listen to the audiobook version, and I'm like, I have grown so much as a writer, even since writing this book, that I want to go back and fix it. So let's go to A.R. DeClerc, and you can give your opinion on this new trend, and you can tell us a little bit more about your process.
Okay, well, I'll start with what my process is, and I have made the fundamental, what I consider the fundamental newbie author mistakes, and that someone that I was told was an editor. And so when I first sent Between, which was my first novel, to my publisher, who is a small press, really group of people, very warm. They had assistants of theirs doing the editing. And so the first pass was a content edit, which was the main editor. And that came back, and I did the revisions required and fixed the plot holes and, wrapped everything up. And then it went on to this assistant editor who was supposed to do the line editing, which is the main proof for the spelling, the punctuation, making sure I'm not missing any words, making sure that sentences are complete, and all of those things that line edits and those type of things do. And being a newbie author, that the edits were complete, and I allowed it to pass through, and I caught a few things, and it went back to them, and then it came back to me. So I had 3 total sets of edits. I published and got good reviews and had a few sales, and then we did a paperback, and I got the paperback, and as I'm reading through the paperback, there's literally just tons of mistakes. I was so very disappointed. And so I took that to my publisher and I said, this is unacceptable. This has my name on it. Yes, I'm ultimately responsible but I did the editing that went through. The writer, once you've seen the page 12 times, you cannot see the glaring mistakes, no matter how like big and bold they are, because you've just seen it too many times. You know what it said. It says it. So I was very upset. So I actually had my publisher pull the book down, and it's currently going through re-edits now, because I was like, name is on this. It needs to be the best quality and the highest quality that it can be. It needs to show that I care about, sentence structure and grammar and punctuation and all these things. And they realized at that point that using the assistant, quote unquote, assistant editor wasn't working out, that person wasn't as thorough as they should be. So they stopped that. And I didn't have a whole lot of other issues with my further publications, but my first book was very disappointing in that. So that brings me to my feelings about the write fast, quick and publish scenario that keeps going on. And when Elle told me that she listened to the podcast and there was a person out there actually pushing this to indie writers as a way to be successful, I personally feel it's a huge mistake. And the reason is that we are all at different levels of our craft. And it's like Elle said, she can go back and look at her first book and say, I've grown. I have definitely grown with each successive book that I've done. And I am so much better at self-editing now than I was, but I'm still not the best. And unless, even if you're a new writer, especially to the indie world, you don't have that level of knowledge about do's and don'ts and craft and content and even grammar, punctuation and dialogue, and punctuation in dialogue, which is a pain in the rear. But to format all those things and to make them right. And so I feel like people are really, really taking a huge risk getting proper editing before they publish. And I understand that it seems like in the indie world, the more you publish, the quicker you get it out there, the more successful you're going to be. But I personally don't want my name on anything that's subpar. And I want my quality to be very high. And I self-edit as I go, and I have usually pretty clean manuscripts, and I still want it to be perfect. Really just, it makes all indies look bad. Indies and small pub people look bad when you're getting this flood of stuff on the market that's substandard. So I feel like it's a huge mistake. Paulina, what about you?
I guess starting first, I'm scared of not getting any edits. When I first hit the publishing world, I kind of went in blindly. I didn't have any friends in publishing. I didn't read up on it. I just knew that you could publish on Amazon. I was like, oh, cool, look, I can write a book and publish. And then someone was like, well, you need an editor. And I was like, okay, you need a beta reader. Okay, so I had my best friend read it. And then I did content. I did line edits. I didn't do content. I did line. Got it back, went over the edits. Being who, not knowing what I was doing, I accepted some, threw some out, read it again. Oh, this is great, perfect. Sent it to, I think sent it to my best friend. She went over it, caught some more grammar and spelling. I hit publish thinking, hey, let's go. And let's just say that it didn't just tank. It was the most hurtful experience because I immediately, I think I did that formula without actually knowing it. I immediately wrote and pushed out my second book. And if you read the earlier reviews of my book, they're horrible. Literally people were like, what the hell is this? This isn't even a book. And I've gone back and read, the first copies because I actually have a paperback with it. And it just makes me cringe. Like, I did not put this into the world. People are not reading this thinking this is my work. And all I did was line edits. And she literally, at the very end of it, she goes, you need content edit. And I was thinking, you know, I went and instead of asking people, I just read it. And I was like, oh, well, content edit is this, line edit is this, proofreading is this. I'll just pay for the line edit so that she can fix my spelling and grammar. There was no real big problem with my spelling and grammar, but there was a lot of problems with just holes. Like, let's just put it this way. At one point, he had a sword, and at the next point, he had a hammer. How did they switch in a second? I have no idea. So it was like little things like that. Like, how did she get from here to here? How did he go from, like, what does he feel? Like, the content wasn't there. And now that I'm watching and I'm seeing this trend and I'm hearing people say, oh, to be successful, you need to push books out. Even some of my people I loved, I say that in past tense because I fell in love with this author's series. But it was this series, I'm not going to name the series, but it's really, I loved it. I mean, I still read it now. She doesn't write in a series anymore, but she kind of switched over from, I guess she switched over from doing a bunch of edits to just doing, here's everything, publish fast. And I'm friends with her on Facebook now, and I follow her work more closely, and I can't stand her later books because she literally just pushes stuff out. Like, I'm like, what the hell is this? And sometimes it jumps timelines, and she's really popular. She has a big following, and but I'm like, well, I wonder if a lot of her following are like me, who came in when she still had her editing done, when she wasn't just trying to push out a bunch of crap. So I've noticed that even some of the bigger name, I guess, authors are starting to feel the pressure from the readers, and they're skipping content edits. Do I want to go that route again? Never. My book sucked. It sucked. Like, I think my characters jumped off the page and tried to kill me. So I'll never, ever do that one again. I'm hoping with my new book that's coming out, I have 2 books coming out that, I'm going to try to go the proofreading round too. We'll see how that goes, only because I think proofreading is kind of like you give it, at the end you give it to your betas. I have 2 separate beta groups. I have one that reads it before and I have one that reads it after. So the after is kind of like proofreading because at that point you're just looking for typos. But we'll see. Maybe I'll go that route and see what happens exactly. Amy, your turn. Elle ran away.
Well, yeah, she said she's going to be right back. But I have a feeling that authors who are following this program of, edit a little bit and, slap it up, they have, it's almost an ego issue because if you feel like I've got this under control and my awesome, that's the moment that you don't catch that you've made a mistake. Like I was just proofreading a story that I wrote for the showcase that we did, and the guy Jonathan in one paragraph and Luther in the next. So, ouch. I mean, and those are pretty far apart, and thank God I caught it, when I was editing before I put this read, and because the person who's going to catch those things is going to be your reader, and readers are extremely fast to write a negative review and tell you this book needs a proofread, this book needs an editor, there's a typo on page 272. They are the people, they are out there, and they will make sure that and like Paulina said, it can be very hurt, not only to your feelings as an author, but to your brand and your platform as an author. If people are reading reviews about you that say, hey, this chick doesn't care enough about her work before she gives it to me or before I purchase it.
Yeah. I think I lost readers because of, like, the idea was good. They liked the idea, but when it came down to how I executed it, I think I lost readers. Like, it hurts me. Like, I kind of want to go back to those readers and just be like, hi, I'm so sorry about that. Want to try it again? I'll give it to you for free. Like, I just want to kind of wrap them up and be like, I'm so sorry for this.
Well, I mean, and I'm I felt that way. I have thought to myself, I paid X amount of dollars for this, like a book by an author that has a gorgeous cover and a pretty good blurb. And I'm like, oh, this looks good. Get into it. And obviously has never had any content editing. There's plot holes. There are characters that you meet in one paragraph and never see again. And so it's like, what is even the point of this person? All of those, I have thought to myself, why did I pay for this? And so, you know, it's just it spirals out of control after a while, because readers are like, oh, well, or they'll say, this person's really good stories, but it's really hard to follow when there's a typo on every other sentence, you know, or this person edits pretty good, but their book makes no sense. So it's like one or the other. You either need, yeah, it's really hard to be a reader and to know that I'm the same way. Like, if something doesn't make sense to me, I'm going to be like, this person needed an editor. Like, somebody should have caught this. The fact that, you know, Joe flew away on an airplane and that airplane never lands in the entire story. So where did this fuel come from? You know, like things like that happen, and you're like, that could have been caught with a content editor. I think that author, you're really close to your work, and so you don't see the flaws. That's what your editor is for. They're supposed to say, smack, wake up, this doesn't make sense, let's fix this, you know, or change this, or make this better. So that's my 2 cents about what your editor's supposed to do. And as a reader, I'm same way.
What about the thought of larger name or bigger authors now doing the same thing? Instead of them teaching us, you know, the up and comers, it seems like we're teaching them. What are your guys' thoughts on that one?
As far as they're trying to write faster to keep up with the indies who can write faster?
Yes, instead of like a lot of the bigger indie, like Middle Easters and higher of the indie world, are starting to push out books a lot faster, I've noticed, but lower quality. It's almost like a 5-year-old sees that a 2-year-old can get anything he wants if he throws a tantrum. So now the 5-year-old starts throwing a tantrum.
I think it's a lot of the publishing schedule dictated by the traditional publishers is not the author, it's the publishing house themselves. So a lot of traditionally published authors are trying to get into the indie publishing because they do see that how quickly indie publishers can react to trends, and that they can get more money because there's no middleman, there's no publisher. But I totally lost the question. Holy crap.
Okay, here's an example. One of my favorite all-time authors, Robin Owens. She writes a Heartmate series that's a Celtic novels, which are amazing. Her first I think her last 2 novels are indie published because the publisher either went out or something happened where she's starting to publish indie. But she usually does 1 book a year, and I used to wait all year. I didn't care. I'd grab that book, run home, and read it. But it seems like her quality went down because she pushed out 2 in less than a year. 2 in a year, and I was just like, it seems to me like they went to the indie world and was like, oh, yay, and then it just tanked. You know what I mean? Like, it changed the quality, and I think that's something we should be able to learn from, that if they who have been publishing for way more years than I can count come to the indie world and start publishing fast and their quality tanks, wouldn't you want to follow the formula they had before?
That could be a combination of things. That could be the author pushing things, like skipping steps, not doing her normal editorial routine. She could be using a different editor that may not have the same set of skills as the editors provided by the publishing house. I have seen a lot of indie authors kind of get waylaid with an editor that isn't a good fit for them. They're unsure about what type of edits they need, or that the editor just doesn't push them to be a stronger writer. And So that could be a combination of things, but this whole trend of writing fast, only doing line edits and publishing, a lot of the pressure comes from all these one-off authors who are finding success doing that. And I have no doubt that there are people that can do that and produce a very good book. I am not one of those persons. I've had manuscripts that I sent to my editor, and I thought, this is perfect. This is there is nothing wrong with this. I've gone over this manuscript with a fine-tooth comb. There is nothing wrong with this book. And then I get this like 2-page write-out of everything that needs to be fixed. And this is content edits. She hasn't even gotten to fixing my grammar and sentence structure and whatever. So, you know, it's not being able to see the forest through the trees because you're just so deep into it. So I think that a lot of authors are feeling the pressure to produce content quickly. And I say content because it doesn't have to be books. You can produce content as an author in several different ways, and a lot of them are overlooking it. They just think, I have to write books. No, you can write blog posts, and you can write articles, and you can write short fiction. You can do podcasts. You can do live video. So yeah, they're feeling a lot of pressure to produce content, and they're cutting corners. And if you're an author and you're fine with that, that's your choice. But I could, like AR says, I can't put my name on something that I don't know that isn't good.
I think too that everybody has to recognize what level they're at as a writer. So I'm a pantser. Everybody knows I don't outline. I don't do anything. So I write linearly, which means I write from beginning to end. So I don't skip around. And that helps me so that I don't have holes. But after my manuscript is finished and my rough draft, then it goes to my beta reader. She is not my editor, not a content editor. She is a beta reader. It is her quote unquote job as my beta reader to read it and tell me. I always ask her, A, did you enjoy it? B, does it make sense? Did you get the main message, whatever that message is, you know, at whatever point in the novel that I'm trying to push across to my reader. And so then my beta reader brings that back to take what she has said. Sometimes I don't agree with her suggestions, so I'm like, no, I'm the author. This is my book. I don't want to change that, so I don't change it. But if I do agree with it or what she says makes sense, you know, I'll make revisions. Then it goes to a content editor, and then a line edit, and then a proofread. Then sometimes after it's been through all that, I hop back to my beta reader. You know, does everything still flow? Does everything still go? Some people are at the point as a writer that they don't need the content edit. They're pretty good. They already have their outline made. You know what I mean? They've created an outline, all the plot holes. They follow that very carefully. They know that they don't need that content edit because they are planners in the beginning. Awesome. Some people are super in spelling, and they can re-edit that out themselves and do a really good job, but they're not as good at content. They need the content edit more than the line edits. I get that. But if you're a newbie author, you should definitely go for all the steps, because you haven't tested out how good you are in any of those areas. So you should definitely try at least your first novel to make sure that you have all those ducks in a row. I get there's putting things out quickly. It's just like in Hollywood. It's just like on YouTube. You need to stay relevant. I just watched a YouTube video, and I just read an article about YouTube's algorithms are almost exactly like Amazon. So if you're not getting likes and you're not getting subscribes on your YouTube page, then YouTube buries your video and it doesn't come up as suggested content for viewers. It's the same thing with authors. If you're not selling, then Amazon will bury your book and it doesn't come up as suggested content. So those little, you know, blips of math on the screen are what is going to tell Timbuktu to read this book because it's something they like. And, you know, it's kind of like a spiral. So the authors want to stay relevant. They want to be the next, you know, Brad Pitt, and Brad Pitt's going to make 5 movies because nobody wants that Brad Pitt's out there. So no matter how good or bad those movies are, he just wants his name on the screen so that people don't forget, yo, Brad Pitt's an actor. He's hot. Let's watch him. Like, and so authors are feeling to put out books for the same reason. But I personally am not of the opinion that those books should be subpar just because you want to stay relevant. So that's my pretty sticky on the subject of editing. So, and no, I'm not a Brad Pitt fan, by the way, y'all. He's not my favorite. He's just the first name that popped in my head. You know, or I could have said Will Smith, you know, or Lucas Black, or anyone else. But Brad Pitt is who I chose. But anyway, yeah, I think we're all in the same boat as far as artists go, creating content. Like Elle said, you know, we want to create the content, but I personally think your reader's going to see you if your content's good, not how much of it there is.
Right. I'm reading a book on, it's actually social media marketing, but the biggest takeaway I took from this book is to not compare your journey to someone else's, because your journey is going to be different. She was stressing, you know, if a big author does, you know, XYZ promotion, spends thousands of dollars, and it works out for her, great. I am not in a position that would be helpful for me. So watching this person go through their journey and saying, I need to do this, I need to copy this, and you need to do exactly what this person is doing, will not work for me, because it's all about scale. A lot of these authors that they're saying, hey, I did this promotion and I made X amount of money, they also have a massive backlist of titles that sell regularly. I do not have a massive backlist of titles. So for me to go out and spend $5,000 on a promotion for my one book won't do anything for me except waste my money. And so I understand that in this, I feel the pressure. Like, I feel the pressure that I need to write more, I need to write faster, I need to write, you know, X amount of books. And I have a plan for 2017, but I also have a day job, and I have 2 small children, and I'm married. I live in Michigan, where the roads are really, really bad right now. So it takes me an hour and a half to get to work. There goes my lunch hour, there goes my writing, editing time. There's nothing I can really do about it, unless I feel like quitting my job. However, I like being able to pay my house payments and having heat. So I am where I am. I'm going to make goals that I can achieve. I'm going to continue to write books that I'm proud to put my name on. And I'm just going to keep moving forward. Because honestly, if I had published, what's the cat? If I had published my first manuscript after my beta readers had said, hey, this is great, you should publish this, I think my journey would have been totally different than it is now. I think I would have gotten discouraged. I would have probably quit, because my reviews would have been awful. Like, even before I learned the craft of writing, I would have caught how inexperienced I was. So yeah, I think anybody looking at these individuals that can write quickly, do minimal editing, and publish, need to take the time to step back and say, that's great for this person, but it might not be my journey. I need to learn the craft, learn the industry, and pick a path that works and is sustainable. Because we've also spoken about authors who have tried to match that breakneck pace of publishing content, and they burned out, and well, they crashed and burned. And it's not viable for everybody. It's not viable for most people.
That was fun. You're like, jazz hands. I'm like, okay.
There's an emoji for that.
Yeah, there is. But
I think it's technically hugging, but it looks like jazz hands.
We'll say it's jazz hands.
Jazz hands.
But like you were saying, like, you would have made that mistake, and I was thinking to myself, thanks. I did make that mistake. I mean, I had to.
But now you're amid good company, and you're learning the ropes now. I mean, you learn from your mistake. You could have said, well, that's the end of this. I'm gonna take my book down, pout, and go do something else.
I could have, but I have a boyfriend who won't let me. He literally tells me, he's like, get your butt in there and write. Do this. Let's more books. Let's go. But yeah, it's a blow. It is a horrible blow to read some of the reviews that I got when I first did, my edits. Well, whatever you want to call those. Hold on. I was like, what were some of my bad reviews? And I'm like, you guys don't understand. They were bad. I never got a 2-star review though. The lowest one were 3s.
That's so not bad.
Huh?
A 3-star is not a bad review. Like, I'm happy with 3-star reviews.
No, I don't think
they say bad. You haven't made it till you get 1 star.
I've never. Well, on my second one, I did have a 1-star. No, there was one. I wanted to go to the review that actually made me almost quit. Like, literally almost made me quit. I was like crying. My boyfriend's like, quit reading it. I was like, can't. He's all, quit reading it.
It makes, because one of the ongoing myths / warnings that authors hear is always, if you have all good reviews, people are going to think those reviews are all family and that you paid for them and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, somebody give me a bad review so that my other reviews are validated, but I haven't gotten any. So, I mean, that's good, I suppose. But I also sometimes, sales and word of mouth, even negatively, because, a group or one person didn't care for what you wrote or your content or whatever, sometimes it annoys me because those books are selling just so people can see what the hype is. And even bad reviews can really change an author's track. I mean, I wouldn't want all bad reviews, but if I got one bad review with good feedback, I'd be, I guess. Everybody's likes what they like and hates what they hate, I guess. But yeah, it always worried me because I'm like, I don't have any bad reviews. People are going to think I paid for these.
No, sorry. At the end of one of my reviews.
I think once you get over a certain number of reviews, if they're all positive, that's fine. I think all they want to see is kind of a range. So, like, if you've got 15 5-star reviews and that's it, then yeah, I'd be like, well,
I'd be skeptical.
What? Right.
I'm like, who you paying?
Fiverr.
I need to know their name so I can get a hold of them.
That's a whole nother podcast topic right there.
But paid reviews?
I'm joking. I'll say that in sign language too. Joking.
Did you find the review that you wanted to?
And then I started doing.
Did that review give you constructive criticism, or was it just
It goes, there's some things about the story that didn't feel quite right. Dialogue was unnatural and stiff. There were a few inconsistencies. For example, we were told that Michael and hold on. Wow, she even spelled my main character's name wrong. Sorry. Mitchell and Mary have been best friends from a young age. Yet Micah and her mother have to continuously move when separation from their abilities, like all kinds of things. Then she goes, there were several formatting, and editing mistakes, including comma splices, tense changes that distracted from the reading. Overall, there was not enough action in the plot to make the story feel complete. Even if the saga continues, more should have been resolved within this book to make it feel whole. I was like, but, and then I went back and I was like, oh yeah, there is a lot of inconsistencies. That was actually my first review. And I gave it to this girl for like, oh, here's a free book. And
well, that was so helpful though. I mean, that wasn't just like, this book sucks. It was actually constructive.
It was constructive, but I think it being my first one, I thought it was perfect. And then when it came out, like a lot of them after that was just like, you know, what happened to this character? What is this going on? And even my editor, when I took it back to editing, they said my dialogue is very stiff, which I had to work on. I was like, well, I don't think it's stiff. That's how I talk in my head. And so, you know, that's another thing that I find in books that are self-edited is that if you don't read it out loud, something I had to learn, your dialogue comes across very stilted. So, like, we don't talk. I'm not going to say, I cannot go there. I can't go there. That's what I'm going to say. But if you're writing, most people are right, you know, I cannot go over there. Who talks like that? No one. So it was little things like that that kind of, you know, people were just like, no, doesn't sound like you're talking. That was my very first review, and I think it was just the fact that I was so proud of it. I was so happy to read it, and I was like, oh. But yeah, like now it doesn't hurt as much or whatever. I'm just like, I did better, I think.
But there's a difference between loving what you publish and wanting other people to love it as well and wanting to make money.
Can I just do
where
all three?
I think the issue is, yeah, but what's more important though? To you, it's the fact that you want readers to love it and that you love it. For these people that are in a hurry and to put out, to me, I feel like the money goes over the relationship with the reader, number one, and the satisfaction of the reader, number two. So it's like, well, my customer's going to be pissed, but I don't care because I'm still going to get their 99 cents. Or their $1.99, or their $2.99.
Oh no! If I get $2.99, I'll return that mess if it's bad.
Yeah, if you're only writing for the paycheck, then you're not writing for the right reasons. Like, even if I never published another book, I would still have story ideas that I would write down. I would have character arcs that I would develop just because they pop into my head and they don't leave me alone until I write them down. And that is kind of what an actual author does. If you're just writing for money, this is not the game for you. I mean, there is easier ways to make a bunch of money. Yeah, so and we can discuss this in another podcast, because there is a big discussion about writing something that's commercially viable and writing what's called the book of your heart. And I just happened to get lucky with Stealing the Wolf Prince was the book of my heart. And I'm glad that it's doing well, but I was also strongly in denial about what genre it was, and I'm still kind of in denial. But we can speak about that in another podcast, because we need to wrap it up. Does anyone have anything they wanted to close with? Pauline's dancing.
I'm good.
I think that the basic thing that we've come across, like our advice to newbie authors, is to get the editing. I mean, even if your editor comes back and says, wow, this is really good, you didn't need me, awesome, but that's not going to happen. I don't care who you are. I don't know anyone who writes a perfect first draft. So I mean, I guess it depends on what's more important to you: your book, your reputation, your wallet. You know, so our suggestion and our advice to all new authors is to get the edit.
Yeah, learn the process.
Yes.
I think there's a phrase that says, you know, you have to learn the rules before you can break them. Learn the rules. Anything for you, Paulina? Okay. Well, thank you for joining us. If you like the podcast, please like, comment, and share. This has been episode number 13, and good night.